mercy on me, O God, according to thy loving kindness, according to the multitude of thy tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions, wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee, the only, have I sinned and done this evil.
Hello, good day. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing our study in the book of Ecclesiastes. We're in chapter 9. We're going to read chapters 9 and 10 because I get the feeling we're going to get into chapter 10. Let's go. For all this I considered in my heart, even to declare all this, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. No man knoweth either love or hatred by all that is before them. All things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean, to the unclean. Okay. I think I skipped the wicked or something. There's one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean and to the unclean, to him that sacrificeth and to him that sacrificeth not. As is the good, so is the sinner, and he that sweareth as he that feareth an oath. This is an evil among all things that are done under the sun, that there is one event unto all. Yea, also the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live. And after that they go to the dead. For to him that is joined to all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything, neither have they any more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love, and their hatred, and their envy is now perished. Neither have they any more portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. Go thy way, eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for God now accepteth thy works. Let thy garments be always white, and let thy head lack no ointment. Live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of the life of thy vanity, which he hath given thee under the sun, all the days of thy vanity, for that is thy portion in this life. And in thy labor which thou takest under the sun. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave, whither thou goest. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare, so are the sons of men ensnared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them. This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. There was a little city, and few men within it, and there came a great king against it, and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no man remembered that same poor man. Then said I, Wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of wise men are heard in quiet, more than the cry of him that ruleth among the fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savor, so doth a little folly him that is in reputation for wisdom and honor. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart at his left. Yea, also, when he that is a fool walketh by the way, his wisdom faileth him, and he saith to every one that he is a fool. If the spirit of the ruler rise up against thee, leave not thy place, for yielding pacifieth great offenses. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an error which proceedeth from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth. He that diggeth a pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh an hedge, a serpent shall bite him. Whoso removeth stones shall be hurt therewith, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. If the iron be blunt, and he do not whet the edge, then must he put to more strength. But wisdom is profitable to direct. Surely the serpent will bite without enchantment, and a babbler is no better. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool will swallow up himself. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischievous madness. A fool also is full of words. A man cannot tell what shall be, and what shall be after him, who can tell him? The labor of the foolish wearieth every one of them, because he knoweth not how to go to the city. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child, and thy princes eat in the morning. Blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles, and thy princes eat in due season, for strength, and not for drunkenness. By much slothfulness the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. Curse not the king, no, not in thy thought, and curse not the rich in thy bedchamber, for a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter. Very different chapter, huh? Still has the same flavor, but it does take on a little more proverbian feel. But a lot of interesting things to pick out there. For now, the thing that gave me pause was just about the death and then never another portion of the earth. Again, even with resurrection, that's like a new world. It's a different place. It's not the same thing. You know what I mean? Not that you have to be dogmatic. I mean, like I said, this is his opinion. You know, it's like, it's not wrong though. I agree. It's like when you die, you're dead. And you don't have any more portion forever in anything that goes down here on earth. Even Jesus, after he died, he ascended into heaven, and he doesn't do anything more down here until he comes and ends the age. You know what I mean? Like, other than through the Spirit, obviously. But as far as that carnal man who walked among us, he walks among us no more. And never will again. Not as the world is. Not until the world is changed. You know, millennial, at least. At least in the millennium, you know what I mean? And even then, it's going to be a little interesting because I'm not sure how it's going to be. Anyways, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift. Wait, do I think there was something else? No work device. No, that's fine. In death, there is nothing. There's only nothing. There's not like, oh, I'm going to mull over my deeds and stuff like, no, you're just dead. And that's good. You wouldn't want death to be conscious. It's a really weird idea. And then to be disembodied from your body. That's not a biblical concept. You have to have some sort of body. That's why Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 15. It's like when the dead, what kind of body do they come? Well, it's the one that you put in the ground. It's not exactly the same, but it is the same. It's changed. It's transformed. Well, what if the atoms are different? The atoms are always different. It's not about that. It's about bringing back. Yeah, you could be ground to powder, and God will just take the local powder and bring your soul back together and put the spirit in there, and there you go. Bring your body, and then the spirit and the soul, etc., etc. That's all. It's in his hands, that matter. We have to sort of trust that he can put it all back together again. In life, you know what? This is this seems like an evil thing, but also, I'll tell you what, it's something when I coach my kids in wrestling and any kids in wrestling, I always tell them, just because you think he's better than you, he's got a better record, he's a better wrestler, don't tell yourself you can't beat him anyways, because it's a game, and anyone can win and lose. Everyone makes mistakes. And I've always taken a lot of delight when, because my kids delight themselves also in beating kids who are better than them. That's how we think of it as. Like, because maybe we don't have the speed, the skill, the strength, but we have the cunning. And that's one of the things. I teach them to wrestle with cunning. To be smart, to catch them at their weak point instead of trying to meet their strength head on. You use wisdom. And that's probably why they do well, because they aren't the strongest, they aren't the fastest, but they do win. So you don't have to be the fastest to win the race. Now, sometimes it's because of cheating. Sometimes it's because of other things, other factors. People can be out of their game because of psychological factors. That's why even if you're racing the fastest man in the world, you run your fastest, you don't stop. Like, oh, I might not beat him. What if he gets a cramp? What if? You don't know what's going to happen. Run the race. I always run like I'm going to win. I always tell them to go out there and fight like you're going to win. I don't care who you're facing or what you're facing. It doesn't always go the way people predict. The battle is not always to the strong. Look at America going up against Yemen. We can't defeat them somehow. We've been fighting them for years through our proxies. We had a Saudi proxy war against them, starving their people. No wonder they chant death to America. America has brought nothing but death to them. Death, and then we take their resources at a discount and make their kings rich, but the people starve. Oh, if that was going on here, we'd just sit by and clap our hands and say, we love you. Anyways, so, the wise don't always end up with the food either. Wisdom also, just because I'm the wisest, sometimes strength overcomes wisdom. Sometimes it doesn't, just like with the story you told about that wise man. Wisdom is better than a lot of things, but it is not a panacea. It is not a cure-all. That's what that means. It is not something that will do everything for you. It's everyone's like, oh, wisdom. Yes, wisdom. It is another tool, like strength, like swiftness. Speed is a good thing to have, both of mind. Even of tongue, I got a quick tongue. Gotta watch it. Quick tongue, that's like a fool's, it's like a fool playing with a double edge, with a sword with no handle. Just got two edges on it. It's got two sharp ends. Both ends are sharp and razor blade sharp. Time and chance happens to all. That means sometimes things that are not any sort of punishment from God. Even, God has ordained the world. It is all unfolding according to a predestined plan. But we don't know what that plan is. God's plan may be for me that this is my last day, and my works will be done, and that's it. It's like, that's God's plan, and I don't expect it. I don't want it right now, but it might not even be his wrath. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, there's a disaster slated to happen and you're caught up in it. Sorry. But it's like he could raise the dead and again, my works are in his hand. And what am I going to do? Curse God because he took that which he gave? Just like the gourd of Jonah. You really liked that gourd and then you cursed it because, you didn't labor for it. It came up in a day. And you look at this city of Nineveh and you despise them, want them dead. What the heck's wrong with you people? Yeah, because the things people ask and want of God are more contradictory than they realize. More foolish than they realize. Yeah, men of understanding getting rich. Not necessarily. There's a certain kind of understanding, a certain kind of wisdom that gets you rich, especially if you're willing to be unscrupulous. There are plenty of really smart people who do not get rich off of it. It's like, I've never wanted to use my mind and occupy it with things that, so that my thoughts would somehow enrich me. Like, I'm using my brain to make myself rich. Whoa. I use my brain to think about things I love and to try to drive out things I hate. But the idea that I would sit around and my brain would be constantly focused on the riches. That's why I enjoy physical labor, because it allows me the freedom of thought, because I do not shy away from work. I love work. The idea of using my understanding to be like, okay, I'm going to be some sort of accountant or trader of some sort. I'm going to apply my mind to these subjects. To me, that's like going to hell, like voluntarily, for my whole life. I would much rather do anything than have my understanding captured, where it was like my mind was constantly focused on things that I didn't love, but that made me money. Now, if I'm doing something that I love and it happens to make me money, that's great. If it's something I like doing, and if it's a mental thing I like doing, like writing music or teaching Bible studies, I suppose, though I make it very hard to, I do make money off music, I do. And I'd like to make more money off music, of course. But that's something other. The Bible studies, no, I don't want to make money off of it. I don't. Because I want you to profit from it, and that will profit me. That's enough. It's enough riches. I don't want as soon as I start thinking of this as a money-making enterprise, it's going to be ruined for me. Ruined for me. I'm glad it's not monetized. I don't care. I don't think I would. If they stick commercials on it, I don't know. I don't care. I just don't want to take donations from people. If I'm getting paid by advertisers, if they actually want to put ads on my content, go ahead. Whatever. You can skip them or deal with them. That's fine. Or if YouTube just wants, because they want to make money, whatever. There's not that audience yet, so it's not a big deal. But I don't care about that. I certainly don't care if they stick ads on it. That's up to them. It's a platform. They provide a great service. I look at it that way. I mean, certainly they do. They host all this content of mine. Almost 1,500 hours of talking about the Bible and topics that are very socially conservative, let's say. I'm certainly socially conservative, even though I'm actually very libertarian in my outlook, to tell you the truth. But personally, socially conservative, yes. On a personal level, I live my life the way conservatives say people should, the way you think that but actually they're seeing prostitutes and having gay lovers on the side, because they're just a bunch of hypocrites. Not all of them, but most of them. Nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. Yeah, being skilled, does it get you favor? Sometimes, but not always. There's no guarantee. On earth, there is no guarantee. Sometimes life is not fair as you see it, but truthfully, it is being fair. We just don't have a proper understanding what fair is. We think fair is we prosper. It's not. That's life is sweet. That's life is good. Fair is we die. That's fair. That's what he says. Everyone dies. Ultimately, we all are going to end up in the same place, and life is fair. That's not fair. No, we all end up in the same place. That's fair. But he this, but I that. But it's like, well, that part wasn't fair, but the result is fair. Everyone has the same thing. That's equity, brother. That's equity. Okay? A sinking ship drags everybody down. Okay? And the rising tide floats all boats, while a sinking ship takes down all hands. Or when a submarine implodes, we all go with it. All right. For a man also knoweth not his time. Yeah, you don't know when you're going to go. Nobody knows. That's something like I said, I don't want to. I pray, Lord, spare me. I have work I want to do, but I know he doesn't need me. I know he doesn't need me. He could raise up someone else to do what I do. I like to think the work is important, but it's of course the Lord. I certainly will never be that kind of arrogant fool as to think like I'm necessary for God. No, but he is kind and we are faithful. So, but I still don't know my time. I can still run out way before that. It's like I've come a long way. I've done a lot. My life could be, virtually over. Who knows? God knows there were times when it almost was. Time and chance happens to all of us. We don't know our time. As the fishes are taken in an evil net, and as the birds are caught in the snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time. See, it's like I said, when it falls suddenly upon them. I'm working on a song called Death to America. And it's about how the things that they do in Washington cause people around the world to cry out death to America and have that for their national slogan and stuff. Why would people feel that way about it? It's such a wonderful country. You know? It is a wonderful country. Anyone who lives here thinks so. Well, not anyone, actually. A lot of people hate it. It's like, but anyone who comes here from someplace else generally thinks it's a nice country. Because, people are unhappy with the way things are. They want utopia a lot of times. And obviously, I'm not satisfied either with the way things are with the status quo. Especially with the fact, like I said, I think our foreign adventures are having a domestic consequence, which is this massive inflation. And the empire are having to constantly maintain bases all over the world. I mean, there's dozens of CIA bases, or there's at least a score of CIA bases in Ukraine. How much money does that all cost? And how long have they been there stirring up trouble with Russia? This all needs to be dismantled. But here's what the problem. It's going to keep going. And people are going to be angry with us. And if we don't cut it out, war will come here. Suffering will come here. And I might suffer. Not because I did anything. Not because I wanted it. Not even though I opposed it. A nuclear bomb might still kill me. Or something else. It doesn't have to be nuclear. It could be just whatever. A terrorist attack. When we're going around, we are the biggest sponsor of terrorism around the world. Have been for a long time. We just don't, we don't mention the black budget. And certainly we are the greatest source of terror, terrified children, terrified women, terrified people. They're terrified because of American might and because of American arrogance and because of American callousness and wickedness. So they call for our deaths. That might mean me. I'm not too pleased with that. No. It might mean one of my children. It might mean my grandchildren. Well, I'm exceedingly displeased with that, We can't have that. So I'm thinking maybe we have to go a different route. America needs to die. It needs to die and be reborn, The America that has been must cease to be and be destroyed. And we must destroy it. America must destroy America and rebuild it in the righteous image that we have always idealized, You can't go back in history. There's no point in time where it ever was real. You have to, just like with Jesus, I've never been like him entirely, but there are moments, and also I have this idea of who he is. We also have this idea of who our country is, and we need to enforce that upon the people who govern it. That truth, justice, and the American way. The American way is truth and justice, not lies, blackmail, and the injustice and uneven system whereby the rich and powerful skate and never pay a price for their wicked deeds. Like all the... You know why they're not going to show you those Epstein files? Because they already cut deals with all the men in them. They've already been given sweetheart deals. Because they are men of wealth and power. It's not so much politicians as the people who donate to them. And famous people, yes, too, I know. So what happens? But you know what? They all go along thinking like, oh, everything's fine. We're the most powerful, wonderful country in the world, but they're not really paying attention to what's happening, Like fish taken in an evil net. When it suddenly comes, it happened on 9/11 too. I mean, everyone was shocked. Not everyone, of course. There were people who were not shocked, but I was shocked. Tons of people were shocked, and they were all stirred up. Next time, I don't think it's going to go so well. Next time, I think we need to blame any terrorist attack on our government for not protecting us and for making us a target. Stop making us a target of terrorists by your evil behaving in a wicked way in other people's lands. That's not what I want my country to be doing. That's not what really most Americans don't want you doing that. And then importing refugees and terrorists What? Why? They would probably rather stay in their own country if we weren't bombing the hell out of it. That's why my dad lives across the street from an Iraqi. Because we killed 1 million Iraqis and displaced a whole lot more. And they got to have some place to go, so they live across the street from my dad. I don't hate him. I get along with him fine. But I'm just saying, it's like, hey, he didn't look like he wanted to leave Iraq. He still dressed like he lived there. He was proud to be an Arab. He didn't want to be something else. He didn't want to become an American. Why would he want to be? Why would he want to be become the thing that destroyed my country? Though he didn't talk like that, because you know why? You don't talk to a big American like me, especially when you've been subject to our soldiers and stuff. I remember the old man he asked me if I was a soldier. I was like, no, I'm not a fighter. I'm not that kind of fighter. All right, what I really said was, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Which I always like to say. When people ask me if I'm a soldier, because I don't. No, the soldiering, I would not soldier for this government. Not for this government, hell no. We're not even supposed to have a standing army. We've got a standing empire, okay? That's all illegal. And so what happened, we we go along unaware of the things that are going on, not watching what's going on around us, not Washington sleeping them and dreaming this land of their ultimate. They think they have limitless power, limitless money. They can do anything. But we will be snared in an evil time when everything collapses. I don't know if everything's going to collapse, but the dollar at some point will collapse. Other things will collapse. Our military power cannot sustain what we're doing. We're going to have a reckoning, right? And the fools always fall into this. It's almost like once in a while you'll get someone who's wise who can stave it off. But the bigger it is, the more power involved, the less likely you're going to the harder it's going to be to find someone who's incorruptible at that level. Some people can have a lot of integrity, but as you put more and more pressure on them, there's only, there's temptation beyond which people are able to bear. I know there's temptation beyond which I could probably bear. Thank God he won't suffer me to be tempted beyond that. So it says, There is a way of escape. Even if you fail to find the way of escape, that doesn't mean it wasn't there. I always know that I could escape. I don't know. I just don't choose it. Sometimes I do, actually. I do choose it. But sometimes I don't. I know I haven't. That's why I say that, because I know the way of escape exists. I know it's there. But I also know that, when you're not, what about, I don't seem to be able to escape. It's like, well, look harder. Look harder. Look harder. Desire to escape more. Sometimes it takes a bit more. A lot of things take a bit of will. I sometimes have to, when I want to make a change in my life, I got to muster up willpower. I pray, looking for spiritual power from the Lord, some sort of gumption from Him to enter into me. I do all of that. I muster all my powers, all my forces, everything I got at my disposal to do, to make the alteration I need to make. Sometimes that can be hard when you got a lot of stuff going on. It's like marshaling the resources for a big move spiritually. It's like, it's not easy. Changing yourself, reforming yourself, putting things to death and bringing them back to life. Meaning portions of our life have to die and then rise again as something better, as something right. Like when Jesus says, there's no man who's left houses or wives or children or anything that will not receive, yes, in this present time, 100-fold of the same things, and in the life to come, life everlasting. So he doesn't say like, oh no, well, you just have everlasting life. Don't worry about the things on earth. He says, no, you're going to have more. You're going to, forsake that worldly existence for a godly existence. And the godly existence in this world includes houses and families and such, which at times we may be called on to sacrifice because we are Christians. Christ laid down his life in sacrifice. Therefore, I know mine may be required also. which would be much preferable to me than time and chance. I don't want to die some like time and chance type thing where it's like, yeah, there was a terrorist attack and, I got taken out. Which I would, the thing is, if it was a terrorist attack that was not very big and there was like, and it caused publicity for my material, I might take it. As far as like, if it actually something good could come of it. But that's the main thing. I want to die in a way that, it's like, or I could just get old and die peacefully. That would be even better, actually. I don't, but if I have to die otherwise, then I do want it to be for glory. Not for something stupid. Not for like some stupid misadventure. Not for falling down the stairs like an idiot, which I have done recently. And as I get older, it'll be like, Well, as I get older, I'm going to probably live someplace with less stairs. Or, actually, I should reconfigure the stairs in my house when I remodel it. It has one of those old stairways that's like completely not up to code. There's one time I slipped at the top because it has this really tight turn. And there's parts where you have almost nothing to step on, and I was wearing socks. Went all the way down the stairs on my bottom, and I still have a bump from the wheel that was raised from, I call that God's. I want to say his butt whooping. I should have just said ass whooping. So there I did. Sorry, I can't help it. This is an adult Bible study. Sometimes, I don't know. I consider certain slang to be not the same as whatever. It's like people are very strict. It's like I can say any word I like. It's how I use them. I don't think they're forbidden words. I can say all the words and have. I'm just not doing it now because I'm not trying to make some sort of demonstration or whatever. It's like if it makes sense, we will. We'll say whatever's necessary. This wisdom I'm not going to apologize to someone who's going to be judgmental over my matter of conscience, which I do consider that because it's like we're in a different language in a different time, place. There is conscience. There was a little city. Yeah. So, men are caught in evil times because they're not aware. And the wisdom could save them. There was a little city. He tells the story of the little city. I saw there were a few men. It was a small city. And a great king came against it and besieged it, and great bulwarks. He had all the siege work and everything. There was some poor wise man, and by his wisdom, he delivered the city. We don't get the details here. That's fine. He just came up with some sort of plan, some scheme, some anything. Jeeves, we've got to save the city. What do we do? Well, sir, I don't know if you know Jeeves and Wooster, but that's what it makes me think of. It's like he was the servant who was the wisest of all, and they all came to the servant to hear his wisdom. So I like that book. It's kind of interesting. It's playing on a theme that is I don't want to call it eternal, but it's ancient. It's like an ancient theme. The idea of the wise person of very little means. He's not rich. He's not famous. He doesn't have. He's not even in great reputation, but he is wise. But he just keeps to himself. Until this time of crisis. And then so he sees this and he says, well, I say wisdom is better than strength because it's superior. Look at the strength of that king was defeated by wisdom. That's so awesome because it's so less costly. You know what I mean? Strength is so difficult to muster. That's why it's like I like writing songs because the thought that with a song you could damage a country. You know what I mean? Like damage them in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like reputationally. Like the one man could write a song that would become so popular and so widely heard that it would destroy a country's reputation or something like that. There have been there's songs that have destroyed the singer's reputation actually, which is interesting. I forgot the name of the guy in the whole story. But there was a guy and he was kind of like a rocker. And then they had him do this one video where he was like in pink and stuff. And boy, career down the toilet. That was it. That pretty much ended it. Because he wasn't he became a chick band, but that's not what his brand had been. That would be like me suddenly I get famous and then I start singing love songs. I got one or two of those. Oh, going all commercial, selling out. His wisdom is despised. His words are not heard. Well, they heard him at the time of crisis when it was needed, but then afterwards it's immediately forgotten, right? They do not remember that, afterwards he delivered the city. No one cared. They just went back to their normal life. I mean, there may have been a moment. I think of skill. It's not so much wisdom. Back in the 80s, there was a girl. I forgot if it was baby Jessica or baby something or other. A little girl slipped down into a well. A very narrow well like this. It was very horrible. I remember the picture of her little face down there. And there was this man, and he dedicated himself day and night to getting her out. And he got her out. And there was a moment of triumph and adulation. And in that moment, his life peaked. And after that, he very soon, he was just another guy. And no one greeted him anymore in the marketplace saying, "Hey, Mr. Hero." Being the hero, liking that applause, liking that adulation. It's not wise. I doubt the wise man in the story is going to be resentful. But it is remarkable that we forget, we honor people briefly sometimes, and don't consider the measure of what they've done. And oftentimes it leaves people with a hollow, empty feeling. But it's like, but the problem is, it's like, I think it becomes hollow because you allow yourself to be too inflated by it. If I allow myself, if I get lots of views or something, and I allow myself to get puffed up by it, and then suddenly my views drop, I feel deflated by it. I get a letdown. If that were the case, but I don't, because I don't care. I only want to see one. The only thing that lets me down is if I don't see that one person watching the stream, because people watch afterwards. I see that people come back and check it out, and I know I have friends and other people who listen to whatever they need. It's not something I sweat. And if I get a bunch of views, it's always fascinating to me. I'm like, what happened today? Why did they decide to recommend me today? Because there'll be days where it just spikes, and I don't know what it is. The algorithm probably gives it a shot because they're like, there's people who like Bible stuff, right? Christianity. The words of wise men are heard in quiet, more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools. Interesting. I was at second clause. I was making sure I understood. The cry of him that ruleth among fools. So the words of wise are heard in quiet places more than, the quiet words, also assumingly, than the crying out of him that ruleth. The ruler yelling at his fools. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of funny things like that. You could see, it made me think of like the Three Stooges, like Moe yelling at Larry and Curly. You guys, it's like, because, and no matter how loud he yells, of course, they always do it wrong. Because that's the Three Stooges, right? They're fools. On purpose, for humor's sake, which is a clever thing. It's fine. I always like it. But it's true. The cry of one who's in charge, him yelling and yelling and yelling. It makes me think of here, like, I raised wise children. They listen. They listen to adults. When one of my sons was working in a daycare, and he noticed a lot of kids don't listen. And he thinks, to me, it's weird. Because, like, you don't listen to adults? That's kind of dumb. Bad things can happen if you don't listen to the adults. You got to pay attention. And, because that's how my kids understand reality. Because they pay attention, they listen. And because they're not foolish. And, I see parents with these kids that are raised badly and they're raised foolishly. And the parents are yelling at them, and the kids don't listen. because they've been trained not to listen, because parents will yell things that don't mean anything, and they yell and yell and yell. You got to reserve, you got to understand. I always remember they talk about in politics, political capital. They're like, oh, he's just been elected president. There's a lot of goodwill. He has a certain amount of political capital to try to carry out his agenda. Yeah, because it means there's a certain amount of goodwill where people will be like, okay, we're going to let you try to do stuff that we may not be sure is good, but this is what we voted for, so we're going to give you the opportunity to demonstrate that this is a good idea and go out and implement your plan. But as you do that, you spend political capital. And if you don't get a return on that investment of like, wow, that was a good idea, Mr. Government. Wow, you really spent our goodwill in a good way and improved things for us or for the world or whatever, I don't mind that we spend money on foreign aid. I just wish we were making the world a better place instead of a more rotten one. That would be a good use of my money. And it's really not even my money was spent a long time ago. It's my great-grandchildren's money they're spending. Not even my grandchildren's money. They ran out of yet last week. So, a quiet, raving at your children nonsense. You're like, how your kids, blah, 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 blah. It's like, control yourself. You're supposed to be the adult. Teach them how to behave by behaving yourself. So, certainly when you're dealing with children, because they're in your power. Unlike my wife, who is not in my power, unless she wants to be. She has to submit. Wives submit to your husbands, because I have no power over her otherwise. Certainly not in this country. It's like in some countries, yeah, it's like, oh, I can have you beaten, woman. Not that I agree with that. But, she has to, I have to convince her to submit to me, which I do, And generally women, they don't like to admit it. But of course they submit to their husbands because they married a guy that they look up to, I hope. Because they don't, like I said, marrying down from a woman's perspective is weird. From a man's perspective, well, a man's got to marry the right kind of helper. But his first concern is as often looks. It shouldn't be. It wasn't for me, not my first concern, though it is a filter through which they all must pass, I suppose, or they all had to pass. As far as I don't know. I never told the Lord I won't consider someone because of their looks or something like that. I said I wanted to find the woman you want for me to marry. So I went about looking based on someone who I thought would be suitable for someone who was going to serve God. And so that's my main concern. I want someone who's focused on the right things. And then you have a good synergistic, you're working together. And so, a quiet, carefully measured tone that is communicating very directly, sincerely, truthfully with a child will be much more effective than yelling inane nonsense. I'll hear parents threaten their children. If you don't, I'm going to do this. If you don't, I'm going to do that. And they all worked up. And they're saying things that they just won't do, that they don't have it in their heart to do. But that's what, again, turns out foolish kids. You got to make your children wise. Wisdom is better than weapons of war. Yeah. That's why I craft my musical missiles with wisdom, because they're better. I can do so much more damage potentially with a song than with a missile. I mean, obviously if you get enough nuclear warheads. But the thing is that really better? Has something good happened when you destroy the whole world? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, yeah. There's a point at which you've destroyed the very thing you were fighting over. That's no good. That's why after 9/11, you didn't really see a lot of real terrorist attacks on American soil. Because it was the most self-destructive thing that Al-Qaeda had ever done. Prior to that, we'd been supporting them. In fact, the Some of them were upset that Osama was turning on us because the Americans are great to us, because we had been. And we supported the Mujahideen in defeating the Russians. We still support a lot of, the people we back in the Middle East are often terrorists. Why are we there? I don't want to back any terrorists. All we did is stir up a pot and cause a lot of people to die. Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary. Oh, I missed that. But one sinner destroyeth much good. It means, even with all your wisdom, one person can really mess it up. I think of like the movie 300, the 300 Spartans. There's the one person who betrays them for envy. He went out with them and he decided to betray them to the Persians for the pleasures that the Persians could offer him. And so he did. One person transgressing. There's also stories of that in the Old Testament, right? There's Achan. He troubled Israel. He took the accursed thing into his tent, and the people were suffering because of him. And there were other instances where the actions of a few brought about the sufferings of many. This is very often the case. That just a few people making really bad decisions causing all kinds of suffering. That's certainly what our government does. Especially away from our shores. Not that they aren't lovely here. Not that they aren't awful here is what I mean. I meant that lovely sarcastically. Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to stink, to send forth a stinking savor. I'm sorry. So doth a little folly him that is a reputation for wisdom and honor. Again, the point is, like, when you have some sort of ointment or whatever, how like one nasty thing ruins it. There's a fly in my soup sort of thing. Don't worry about the ointment of the apothecary and all. I mean, we could go into that more symbolically, because ointment, oil, it's kind of interesting because of the anointing and stuff like that. Dead flies. There's the Lord of the Dunghill, Beelzebub. A little bit of Beelzebub's dealings in your anointing causes you to stink. What is the stink? Well, the sweet savor that comes up before God is the prayers of the saints, and our desire to seek his favor. What if it's a stink? Like in Isaiah, instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. Ugh, I don't want to smell you. You stink. And that's why, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. Right? A little bit. That's why, I used to take that so strictly that, I was like, even a little heresy, even a minor one. There is some room for flexibility with the spirit. There's room for flexibility with the conscience. But genuine folly, you know what I mean? Not just like a little bit of, I do comedy. I'm not a comedian. I would call myself a humorist. I make up humor. I make humorous things to entertain people. No. There is a certain kind of harmless folly, I guess. I don't even think of it as foolishness, though. Like I said, when I do them, I don't think they're actually foolish. Some of them are maybe silly, but not really, because I don't actually just engage in foolishness, even if it's funny. It's not the same. You can have a very wise, witty humor. Humor and folly is not the same. Laughter is not the same as folly. Though folly can make people laugh because of the comic nature of the fool. There's something just comedic about someone doing these, doing the things you shouldn't do and then having to suffer the consequences to a certain degree. I mean, in a way that it makes it funny. The Three Stooges do something silly and then they get bonked on the head as the wall falls down on them, but they suffer no harm. That's what makes it funny. The unexpected. Him that is in reputation for wisdom and honor, though, when they engage in a little folly. Folly, to me, that is like you're in reputation for honor, and then you're like, that's the thing. It's like, that's why, I used to like, why do the Democrats get away with having extramarital affairs, but the Republicans don't? That's not entirely true. What it is in the past, they used to get away with it less, and now people get away with a lot more. That's why I see it. But there is a tendency, when a Republican or someone who's conservative does something that's against their principles, it's aha. Even though it's like, I don't know, on the left, you're supposedly feminist. It's like, if you're, how is it feminist to cheat on your wife? Is that feminist? I don't know. I don't understand feminism. If that's the case, it's like, is that feminism? Anyways, so some things I think transcend that sort of thing, or they should, right? Faithfulness. I think feminists value faithfulness, or they should, unless they're just in the head, right? So someone has a reputation of being faithful. Like, Mike Pence, when he go around with his wife and all that stuff. What if he was found, that never happened, but imagine someone like that. There was the president of the Association of Evangelicals. I remember his last name. It was Haggard, because I saw him on Oprah Winfrey's special on heaven. And he was the one who really disgusted me with his talking about how in heaven we could eat all the pastries we want and never get fat, which was really disgusting as far as I'm concerned, because that's not it. Gluttony is not suddenly, oh yeah, now you can be a glutton. Why don't you just have your, of course, but he's Mr. Holy. He's Mr. President of the Evangelicals. So when he's caught in a park with a male prostitute who's very young, not a child or anything, but 18, 19, something like that. That looks bad, fella. Yeah, and so you get fired. You lose your place. You can't be president of the Association of Evangelicals and doing that. It's weird to me that even like Jimmy Swaggart, we got caught in the hotel room. I don't know. He made a tearful apology, I guess. I mean, do people deserve a second chance? Sure. If they want to forgive him, that's his church. But on some level, should they be given their ministry position back? Probably not. They shouldn't, as far as that of position of honor. And, it's one thing if you're just some nobody. But when, like, you're on national television talking to people about God and righteousness and stuff, and you're like engaging in some pretty heavy unrighteousness. We all are going to have some unrighteousness in there. That's why I say, hey, I don't mean to be. It's not hypocrisy. I admit my faults. I don't go around telling you that I'm all perfect. And that saying I shouldn't, saying a man, saying you shouldn't masturbate and then you masturbate, does that make you a hypocrite? Not if you admit, like, I have a problem masturbating and I shouldn't masturbate. That makes you not a hypocrite. A hypocrite would be like, people shouldn't masturbate. I don't masturbate. That's hypocrisy, okay? That's hypocrisy. We don't want to walk in that. One of the things is like, people, I do consider that somewhat of a matter of conscience, because there couldn't be a manual, mechanical, non-pornographic version of that might not be sin. So people cite Onan, the son of Judah. I believe it was Onan. He had several sons, and they died, and the young one was supposed to raise up seed, and he didn't want to, so he spilled it on the ground, and the Catholics use that as a forbidding of any kind of emission that isn't for pregnancy. But that's not what the passage is about. And that's a weird thing to lever that in. It sounds like the priests are angry about being celibate, honestly. And a lot of times they're not, so whatever. So they end up engaging in even worse things. Not all, but some, right? That's the thing, is like, don't be too holy where you can't be knocked down a little bit. That's why I'm, no one's going to be shocked when they hear me say, give a bottom whooping with a more coarse term, because they understand, like, that's what Paul's like. He's got little rough edges. He's operating on conscience, not on law. And so sometimes he does things that maybe are not my cup of tea. But that's not a reason to jump up and judge people. Okay. This is a really interesting verse. The next, a wise man's heart is at his right hand. The fool's heart is at his left. What's that mean? Well, first of all, the last thing I would think is like, well, it's left-handedness is a sin. That's the stupid thing the Bible is saying today. Because that would be kind of stupid to say that. Like, oh yes, if he's left-handed, left-handed people are fools. They're fools. I just think that's funny. Left-handeds. No, it's not about which hand. If you're left-handed, your heart should be in your left hand. If you're right-handed, your heart should be in your right. What does that mean? I want to say it's this, that what his right hand is doing, his heart is in it. And what the fool is, his heart is not in what he's doing. It's in something else. Not in what his right hand is doing, but what his other hand is up to. Let not your right hand know what the left hand is doing. There's that kind of stuff. But what it's saying is like his heart is not in the right place. That's what it's saying. His heart isn't in the right place. Because he's not talking about his physical heart, obviously, which is on the left side also. But he's talking about what you care about, that your right hand is doing things you really care about and not just doing things that are maybe stupid or sinful. Whatever you do with your might. That doesn't take away from what I said about manual labor. It's just, I put whatever might I need into that manualness, Because my heart may not be in that thing, but that's just a metaphor. It's not a metaphor like, it's for what are you really doing? What are you up to? What are your hands working on, so to speak? Your hands are symbolic of that which works on what you're doing. The most important things you're doing. The mark of the beast is in the hand or in the forehead, but the hand is symbolic of the work. And so the wise man's heart is at his right hand, and the fool's is at the left. It's wrong. Whatever you're pushing on, whatever you're leading with, your heart should be in it. Well, I'm sorry. I gotta take you to jail because it's my job. Sorry, I gotta throw you out of the store because that's the government said you can't come in here without your gear on. I'm just doing my job. I'm gonna take the shot because I just wanna get along. I'm going to go get vaccinated. I don't really believe in it, but if that's what it takes to keep my job, I'll sacrifice my liberty to get along. Sure. That's what I think of that. Their heart is in their left hand. They don't even see what they do. They don't see their works. They're not even have their heart in their works. You know what I mean? Like our works, like as a country. I see our works, what our hands are doing, and my heart is there, observing and considering and taking action and stuff. But it's like, I was like, oh, my right hand's over here doing stuff, and I'm thinking about, here's the fool. Here's the typical American fool. Here's what we look like, right? In one hand, we have the phone. That's in our left hand, of course, and I'm staring at it. The other hand has a gun, and it's shooting at crowds of children, okay? That's America. We're staring into our damn phones while children die. And if you think that's not going to blow back into your face someday, if we don't do something about it, it will. It will. Maybe not you personally, but some of us personally. People are going to suffer. Our servicemen, somebody's going to pay. Because the Lord won't just sit by and watch it happen. I'm telling you, you think you can just get away with this stuff forever? No way. If we don't answer for it now, our children or grandchildren will answer for it. And boy, they will rightly hate and despise us and curse our names. Yea, also when he that is a fool walketh by the way. I guess this will be the last one. Yeah, that's fine. His wisdom faileth him, and he says to everyone that he is a fool. He doesn't say it. What it is he demonstrates that by what he's doing. As he walks along being a fool, and his wisdom is not manifest, he shows to everyone, he might as well be saying it, look at me, I'm a fool. I'm a fool. That's what America looks like now. We might as well be screaming it to the world. We're a bunch of fools. We don't know how to stop sinning. And we don't know how to stop sinning. Not just little sins. Not just, ugly American sins, rudeness, putting ketchup on everything. That's nothing. The things we got bad reputations for back in the day, being loudmouths, being opinionated, whatever. That stuff, I'll take that criticism and throw it right back in their faces. Okay? That's nothing. That's nothing. It's probably, those stereotypes are probably true. But the folly we engage in right now, that's also true, and that is not acceptable. So get ready, folks. Time and chance happeneth to all. Get ready. The judgment of God only waits, but it does not wait forever. And whether it's the end of the world or not, history has its cycles. If you don't believe in the apocalypse, just look at the apocalypse that happened over and over throughout history of different civilizations. In their small ways falling apart. Anyways, it doesn't have to fall apart necessarily. They can, like I said, just the old can collapse and something new can rise. But there will be tumultuous times. That's just all that. There's no avoiding that. Anyways, the thing is to get in the right position and start pushing in the right direction. All right. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to being back again tomorrow. Until then, remember the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, and he is a fulfillment of the law.
A psalm of David when Nathan the prophet came unto him after he had gone into Bathsheba. Have mercy on me, O God, according to thy loving kindness, according to the multitude of thy tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions, wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee, the only have I sinned.